merry geriatrics.
You dancing bear.
Brand new comedy. Still Game starts Friday, 7th of October on BBC One.
It's all the commotion.
That's a good wee thing, that.
I like
It's a
it.
nice
I
wee
would
thing,
like to
aye.
get one of them.
Pam makes a promise, and I, for one, don't believe a word of it. EastEnders in half an hour, and following London's lifesavers, a new series, Ambulance, begins tonight at 9 on BBC One.
Hello and welcome to The One Show with Matt Baker.
And Alex Jones. Now, promising sun, sea and a whole load of secrets. Our guests in the studio tonight are the crime-fighting double act from ITV's new police drama, The Level.
Noel Clarke and Lindsay Coulson are here.
Evening.
Now, we have seen the first
Oh, we have.
episode. It is, isn't it, Matt? It's edge of your seat kind of stuff. So we look forward to talking to you about that a bit later on.
We do, very much so. First, though, in the words of the late, great Sir Terry Wogan, let's just pause for thought for just a moment, because 50 years ago today, a little-known Irish broadcaster first took to the airwaves in a studio just behind us.
just
In fact,
there,
it was just
isn't it?
over there, we think.
Yeah. At Westminster Abbey this lunchtime, many of his friends, his colleagues and his listeners gathered to celebrate a career that stretched from that day until November last year, when he closed his show for the very last time.
Well, I was lucky enough to be there, and what a wonderful, wonderful hour it was, as Chris Evans and Joanna Lumley led the tributes, along with Ken Bruce, who read a beautiful poem by the Irish poet W.B. Yeats.
Though I am old with wandering through hollow lands and hilly lands, I will find out where she has gone, and kiss her lips, and take her hands, and walk among long dappled grass.
Oh, well, Ken joins us this evening. Hello, Ken.
Hi
Thanks for
there.
popping in.
Hi.
What was the significance, then, of that poem to Terry?
It was a great favourite of Terry himself, and specifically chosen by his family. I think it means a great deal to them, and I was honoured.
Well, beautifully
absolutely.
read.
Well, thank you very much, but not something I'm used to, reading poetry. You know?
And, I mean, Ken, what a fitting tribute it was. I mean, it was a packed hour. I've got the order of service here, and this is something that I will treasure, but every single element was just so fitting, wasn't it?
It was a beautiful service, quite a formal service, because it's Westminster Abbey, you know, you can't have an all-singing, all-dancing show. But it was really beautiful because it was a mixture of classic hymns, but also some beautiful music played by the BBC Concert Orchestra and sung by Katie Mellower and Peter Gabriel. Just really touching moments of special music.
Yeah. It's really hard, isn't it, to get your head around the fact that he's been gone 8 months.
I know.
He still feels very present, doesn't he? Especially coming up to Children in Need.
I know, Children in Need especially. Proms in the Park was another thing, because I used to do that every year. Terry would be on the stage, I'd be backstage. And this year, I got there, and I just kind of thought, oh, Terry's not here. And it was a real awakening again of the thought, oh, he is gone, really. And it was quite a sad moment.
I mean, the turnout, though.
Oh, 1,800 people there. And the fascinating thing to me was it wasn't just the great and the good, you know, it wasn't just colleagues, it wasn't just the establishment. The listeners were there. Real people, honest people, and they turned out in crowds. There was a cabbie took me down to the Abbey, and he said, blimey, I've never seen coaches outside Westminster Abbey before. There were coaches parked, there were queues right round the corner.
Lovely.
The people came out to honour Terry.
We were down there as well. We sent our cameras down to Westminster Abbey to ask some of Terry's many admirers to give us Wogan in one word.
Glint. Charm. Rascal.
I think I pick heart, actually.
One word. Magic.
Laughter. We had so much laughter. We really did.
Hello, I'm Gabby Roslin.
Even if he was talking about something quite serious, there was always a glint in his eyes.
Silly. I loved him for being silly. He's a silly man, he had a great sense of humour.
What?
Poetry. The way he spoke English was poetic.
Keats on casters or Wordsworth on wheels, poetry in motion.
Warmth. He gave the best big bear hugs, and every time you worked with him, you didn't feel like you were at work.
Edgy, telling quite rude jokes early in the morning.
It's outrageous and completely in the moment.
Absolutely typified that dictum of, it's very important to take your job seriously. It's absolutely a waste of time to take yourself seriously.
I'd go with Twinkle.
Would you?
Oh,
Or
yeah.
Ken?
Mischief.
Well, he sat here a few times and I'd go naughty.
Yeah.
Very naughty. But there's more tributes, aren't there, coming up this week on Radio
That's
2?
right. Yeah, tonight at 10 o'clock. Last night we had the first part of our tribute to Terry. Thank you for being my friend. I'm privileged to be the narrator on that. Second part is tonight at 10 o'clock on Radio 2, if you can join us for that. And then later in the week on Friday night, BBC One, 9 o'clock, there will be a special tribute to Terry. A great programme that promises to be. And then later in the year, at the beginning of November, there's going to be a huge concert in aid of Children Need. Children Need rocks, and there'll be some fantastic names taking part in that, like Take That, Ollie Murs, you name them, they're all going to be taking part.
They're all there. Well, Ward Thomas is somebody who's taking part, and of course, Terry introduced the nation to this duo way back when they were at the beginning of their career. They're going to be playing for us later as well, which is very fitting.
Very, very much looking forward to that. We're going to have a performance outside, on the patio.
On the patio.
They're fantastic.
Ken, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Pleasure. Thank you for asking me.
so much. We'll be talking to Noel Clarke and Lindsay Coulson very shortly. But first, you may remember, back in May last year, the government hired the American firm Concentrix to crack down on tax credit fraud. Well, that didn't work out so well.
Well, hundreds of families had their payments stopped completely, and with complaints flying in, the government has announced that Concentrix services are no longer required. Dan asks, what happens next?
Around 4.5 million households across Britain claim some form of tax credit, a state benefit aimed at people on lower incomes.
Most people who claim tax credits need that money just to get by. But the government wants to crack down on fraud in the system, which it says costs billions of pounds each year.
In November 2014, HMRC hired a private American company called Concentrix to root out fraudulent claims.
We focus on customer engagement.
But the accuracy of that customer engagement is being called into question by some of those on the receiving end, like single dad Paul Ite from Hayling Island in Hampshire.
Good to see you.
His tax credits were stopped because Concentrix claim he's living with his ex-partner. Paul says they've lived apart for more than a year now, but convincing Concentrix of that is far from easy.
Trying to get hold of them is impossible, so you ring HMRC at yet more cost to be told, no, it's back with Concentrix.
What a mess.
Stress levels are through the roof. There's a lot less money coming in. If your son comes home like he did and he'd ruined his new school shoes 4 days after going back, little things like that, or torn trousers. It's just having to penny pinch and penny watch every single thing that you spend.
Single mum of two, Sarah Broom, has also had her tax credit stopped. Again, because Concentrix says she's living with someone. This time, it's someone Sarah says she's never even heard of.
Couldn't tell you who this person is, how old he is, where in the country he's from. You know, I just don't know who he is.
So, how do you feel you've been treated?
It's hard enough, you know, sort of, you know, being a single mum. James, my little one, has just started nursery. I haven't had the money to get his, you know, his little raincoat.
And Concentrix didn't just stop Sarah's tax credit. They also insist she owes thousands in overpayments.
The worst thing was them telling me that I've got a £5,000 repayment for the last financial year, and also, you know, looking at a fine on top of that. Now, I don't have that kind of money.
If you want to see how widespread this problem is, just go on social media. One online group has 10,000 members.
Their stories have a familiar ring.
They kept writing to me to tell me that there was another person living in my property.
I am nearly 5+ weeks now without any money. 4 kids, that's pretty hard.
They're hanging up the phone, trying to fob a lot of us off. He told me that my child tax credits had been stopped because I didn't return a letter that they had sent out to me in May this year. I haven't received such a letter.
So what's the reason for all this chaos?
Alison Garnham from the Child Poverty Action Group has been following the government's efforts to cut fraud, and she believes the decision to contract out the work was flawed from the off.
The HMRC has outsourced some work but not supervised it properly. Concentrix should have been operating to the clear guidelines set out by the HMRC, but unfortunately that hasn't happened.
Clearly something's gone wrong here. What should happen now?
So HMRC needs to review these cases. They need to look at all the cases where a decision has been made, and they should reinstate benefit and start again and investigate them properly.
HMRC told us it is now processing disputed cases as quickly as possible and has redeployed 150 staff to help resolve outstanding issues. The contract with Concentrix will not be renewed when it runs out next year. Concentrix told us they operated professionally at all times and within the guidance set by HMRC. They say they contacted claimants based on information provided by HMRC, adding that they've saved the taxpayer £300 million in confirmed tax credit fraud. Stopping fraud is clearly important, but for those like Sarah who find themselves on the wrong end of a decision, the process feels anything but fair.
Seems like we're not people, we're just, you know, just little figures on a form.
Thank you, Dan. Now, Noel and Lindsay have made their way over to the sofa, and they're very welcome because they've come bearing gifts. Now, look at this. This is rock, OK, classic candy rock from Brighton, and it's got the name Level.
Yeah,
in a forensic bag.
There's even our names on the back. What have we done, Matt?
Wow, this is all about this new
They've
crime
stitched us up,
drama
yeah?
that's on Friday, which is wonderful. Obviously, there's a lot of crime dramas out there at the moment. So what takes this to the next level?
No.
Clever.
Eh?
Yeah.
I've got to tell you, that was...
That's really good.
That was
Can I
great.
have another sticker on for that? Come on.
No, I tell you. Well, I mean...
go on, in all seriousness.
In all seriousness, for a start, we're in it, so that's the first thing. So I think that's pretty much good enough reason to watch it. But essentially, you know, you've got a show where, you know, we don't have many shows where the cops kind of, without giving too much away, have to investigate themselves. And also, you know, you've got a great lead in Carla Crome, who's a young female lead, and again, that's something that you don't see that often, and it takes it to the next level.
It's also, it doesn't have a lot of females who are in ditches with their throat slit or raped, or it's, you know, it's sort of, it's quite refreshing not to see that on our telly all the time.
They're alive.
Having said that, it's pretty full on, even the first episode. Just tell us quickly where your characters fit in then to the plot.
My character's the DCI, so she's sort of the boss, runs the whole investigation, and she's based in Brighton, so she is the one who runs the show, basically, and you're my...
Yes, you're my boss, yes.
He's a detective sergeant.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gunner's Sean Gunner Martin is the name of my character, and he's kind of like the lone wolf within there in the department we're in. He's still kind of the guy that's separate to everyone else. He doesn't, you know, they'll be belly laughing at jokes, and he'll just be like, "That's not funny."
She knows him
Do you know
quite
what I mean?
well, doesn't she?
Yeah. The boss knows me quite well, but, you know...
I mean, we obviously don't want to give too much away. We don't give
of course.
any spoilers at all.
no.
But interesting, you as a cast, you were kind of held back from information as well, were you not? Going through the actual filming of this.
He wasn't. I didn't know until after the first 3. So we shot 3, and then we had a break, and then we shot another 3. So I didn't want to know until the second lot, because I thought I didn't think it could be me, but I can't tell you that anyway.
Yeah.
Can I? well, hey.
The thing was about finding out who was the main culprit.
Who was guilty for whatever reason.
But Sherlock here, mate. I'm a writer as well. You can't pull.
Oh, right. So you'd worked it out. You weren't told.
You know, just I wasn't told per se, but you know.
But
So did you work it out, Lindsay?
No, I didn't. I'm not as clever as Noel, obviously.
Okay.
I didn't work it out. No, but I quite liked going. You know, I quite liked all that, and then when I did find out, you know.
Carla Crome was the best though. Carla Crome would work with everyone in the scene, and at the end of the scene go, "I think it's you."
Yeah, yeah, she did. Yeah,
Well, it's quite complex in terms of a plot. So let's give people at home a flavour of what we can expect.
Great.
Here we are.
This is a murder inquiry. You don't tell us things, you could be in a lot of trouble.
Maybe the National Crime Division has a different way of doing things. Here, trust your colleagues.
I think there's a leak in the team.
Who?
I've always had your back. I always will, no matter what you're up to.
What I'm seeing is someone whose investment in this case seems personal to the point of self-destruction.
I'm scared. What are you gonna do? Find him before he finds me.
I'd watch that.
And look, I've not seen that before. That looks pretty good, you know.
It's shot beautifully
Well, we had
as
to
well.
cut that, so we didn't give too much away.
Yeah,
Exactly,
that's
it's quite hard to
good. I really
keep
like
track.
that.
It was nice. I've not seen that.
We'll put it on DVD for you.
Yeah,
Yeah, we will. You can have
link, man.
that.
Just send me a link.
You give us rock, we give you DVDs. But it's a departure for you, isn't it? Because after years as Carol, a character we loved on EastEnders, but I mean, she was pretty draining emotionally, I can imagine.
She looked pretty draining.
Oh, didn't she just? I'm glad you said that.
Heavy.
Everybody
Yes,
tells me when I'm out how drained. Oh, look, there I am, yes. It is a departure. I have played a policewoman before. I did a series for ITV about 10, 12 years ago. I love playing a policewoman because she's not emotionally connected to anything.
No, it's very straight,
yeah,
isn't it?
And that's one of the things that why I wanted to do it, actually, because I just thought I can be the one. I can leave all the sort of emotional stuff to not him. He doesn't do any emotional stuff to Carla. Yeah, so no, I mean, I had a wonderful time on EastEnders, and I loved playing Carol. But it was nice, just and doing single camera is really nice. Not doing multi-camera. I really enjoyed that.
Well, it's on Friday night.
Friday
9
at
o'clock
9
on
o'clock.
ITV.
Yes.
Indeed.
Very good
6
watch.
of them.
6 of them. There you are.
Put that in your diary, or even your country file calendar. Anyway, our next film is about an actor who's... don't know where that came from. Anyway, but whose importance to the film industry, Noel has already said, should never be underestimated.
No, Sidney Poitier starred in and directed countless movies and became the first black man to win a Best Actor Oscar in the 1960s. But his success came with its fair share of controversy, as Angelica has been finding out. I need a word with you.
As the civil rights movement raged in 1960s America, one African-American actor brought the fight for equality to British cinema. An all-time great, Sidney Poitier had already achieved success with a series of provocative, racially charged films. And in 1963, he became the first black American to win a Best Actor Oscar.
So why was it here on the streets of London's East End that he turned in one of his most commercially successful but most criticised performances?
To Sir with Love told the story of Mark Thackeray, an unemployed engineer from British Guyana who takes a temporary teaching post at a tough East End school.
So you're the new lamb for the slaughter?
His class of rebellious misfits aren't interested in learning and sets out to break his spirit.
All you boys out.
But he's more resilient than they expect. To Sir with Love was based on the autobiographical book of the same name by Edward E.R. Braithwaite.
Braithwaite grew up in British Guyana, then served as a pilot during the Second World War. But when he moved to post-war London, he found himself a victim of racism. Critics say the film glossed over this, instead focusing on one man's journey to win over a classroom. To Dr. Mike Phillips, the film was an opportunity missed.
Sidney Poitier was an icon. He stood for the argument about race.
What did you think of the film?
It was a disappointment. The book was about race and the atmosphere in Britain. I lived it. People shouting at you and trying to beat you up and so on and so forth. None of that was in the film. And that was very disappointing.
It's only at the end of term that the rebellious students changed their ways. But under Sir's guidance, they have come of age just before heading into the working world. It's a young Lulu at the end of year dance who sings the tribute with love. But Sir faces a final dilemma.
His big decision comes when he's offered the engineering job he was holding out for.
And it's actress Patricia Routledge that makes the final bid to keep him teaching.
If you must leave, Mark, go to another school. You can't waste a marvellous talent on rotten electronics. Damn, swore I wouldn't interfere.
Well, the part I played was that of a young teacher called Clinty Clintridge.
Great name.
Get that one, yes.
What was it like working with Sidney Poitier?
It was wonderful, awe-inspiring. I was nervous, but he put me at my ease. He was a gentleman, a prince among men. It's a much better film than I thought it was. Now I see it again. To handle those youngsters and get some wonderful performances out of them. They go with him and end up, of course, admiring him and loving him. It's very moving. It's caught me just as I talk about it.
So on the flip side, can you understand where the criticism has come from in terms of the film didn't truly reflect how certain parts of Britain felt?
Yes, I think that's true, but I think the aim of the film showed how things could be and how they should be, and indeed how, in certain places, they have become.
It's almost half a century since the film's release, but earlier this year, the Oscars ceremony drew criticism for its lack of black nominees. Have things changed that much? To discuss their views, we've arranged a screening for drama students from the Identity School of Acting, which prides itself on race being no barrier to acting.
It was surprising to see a movie in the 60s that portrayed a black man who held such a high status and who was so educated.
It's such a simple idea, but it has so many things that we can learn from it about entering adolescence and what it means to be an adult, being someone who people find different.
It was nice to see a black male in a lead role in a film from the 60s. I'd like to see a lot more like racial diversity when we are casting films right now.
To Sir with Love may not have broken boundaries, but for right or wrong, it painted a rare picture of racial acceptance at a time when Britain as a whole was not so tolerant.
Gosh, it really wasn't.
Well, Noel, you led tributes to Sidney, didn't you, when he was awarded BAFTA Fellowship? And you're not just an actor yourself, you're a writer, you're a producer, so what would you say to those young actors there? Because you've been on this for a long, long time, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, I've been, you know, writing and directing diverse films before it was a hashtag on a T-shirt, do you know what I mean? I've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
It's the truth, man. And, you know, things have really moved forward over the last few years. You've got global superstars like John Boyega, you know, who's opening masses of doors. And, you know, I think, you know, for the young kids at Identity and other young kids of all colours and classes as well, you know, things are changing. Things are changing. You know, they have to understand now that they are at the forefront of the change. You know, people like me have done what we've done, much like people like Sidney Poitier have done what they've done, and will continue to do so, but now is a real time where it's flourishing and changing, which is great.
Yeah, and as Angelica said at the end of the film, To Sir with Love didn't really deliver the punch they wanted it to deliver. Yeah. Are you familiar with the pressure of having to present something in a political way, or are you keen to move on from that now?
No, I don't feel pressure to deliver things in a particular way. I write what I want to write. Yeah. You know, and then if people want to make it, they make it. If they don't, there's as many films on my laptop that haven't been made than that have been made. So for me, it's not really about pressure. It's like when I look at things, I look at them with a kaleidoscope of colours and people, because that's how I see things. So I think that's the way forward for people to just do that. And you know what else does that? The Level.
Yeah. Well done.
Always bringing it back,
see? But it does, actually. It's brilliant.
No, it does, seriously.
Good.
Yeah.
It is, fantastic.
Yeah.
The PR people will be very happy.
It's very good.
I bet they're grinning back there. You're grinning back there, aren't you? You're grinning back there.
Well, Lindsay and Noel may well be trying their hands at detective work in The Level, but it just keeps going round in circles, doesn't it? But our man George McGavin is giving them a run for their money.
Yes, away from the mean inner-city streets, there's the whole world of drama and intrigue lurking in hedgerows up and down the country. Just have a look.
Ow! We have a love-hate relationship with bramble. On the one hand, blackberries are delicious. On the other, they're covered in these very nasty thorns. But there's a lot more going on in these bushes than first meets the eye. They're actually far more exciting than you'd think. Bramble patches provide a great source of food and shelter, a setting for an unseen world of wildlife, right in the middle of our cities. We want to show the people of Bristol what really goes on behind the prickly fortresses they pass by every day. So we've brought down cameraman Luke Barnett with some gadgets to film the animals day and night. Hi, Luke.
Hey, George.
Now, how are we going to film life in a bramble patch? This is not an easy habitat.
No, it's not been a very nice place to be in, to be honest. Got scratched a bit. So we came up with this solution, which is a slider, which is enabling us to fly the camera into the bush. So it gives us a perspective we haven't really seen before and makes life a little bit easier.
Oh, yeah. Here we go. Into the bramble. Luke and I are on a mission to persuade the locals that this old row of brambles is in fact a wildlife haven. Our cameras have already spotted snails and birds, but what animals do these passers-by think could be inside here?
Wolves?
Wolves? I hope not. But those are some high expectations, but they're not too far from the truth. We've also rigged specialist camera traps at night to capture images of the bramble's more elusive visitors. And it's a relative of the wolf. This fox is feasting on fruit outside the bush. And there are other mammals too. A mouse and a rabbit seeking protection from enemies safe behind the thorns, where they can enjoy fallen berries.
Wow.
Now
What sort of wild rabbits living in the city?
Yeah.
Brambles are fast growers. They can gain 8 centimetres a day. New stems take root as they reach the ground, creating a protective prickly barrier for smaller species that call the patch their home. We're using macro lenses to delve even deeper into this micro world. This green shieldbug senses the environment with its antennae. It's on the search for tasty plant sap. It seems impossible for this snail to crawl on these prickly stems, but its muscular foot is covered in a thick slime that lets it pass over even the sharpest of thorns. Blackberry juice is a favourite food of this metallic greenbottle fly.
They've got all those lovely colours, you don't get to see them, do you? No, you just normally.
You see them as a pest, don't you?
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, usually.
You're just too busy flicking them away.
Yeah.
You walk down places like this and you don't actually appreciate what's around you.
Spiders love bramble patches. The tangled stems give them lots of places to spin their webs to catch unsuspecting insects and protect their eggs. How many spiders do you think are in this bramble patch?
Probably, I'd say 10,000.
That's a fair estimate. I reckon there's probably near 500,000.
500,000 spiders?
Yeah, at least. A place like this, where we're just simply walking past or cycling past, is actually ideal for animals. It's been brilliant to see such a hive of activity in just one small row of bramble. Insects, birds, mammals, all call this their home. So next time you're passing a patch, spare a thought for all the myriads of tiny creatures that live their busy lives beyond the thorns.
And thanks again to Luke for all of that effort to get
Yeah.
those wonderful shots and taking us right in there.
That was a lovely
Brilliant,
film,
wasn't it?
actually.
Lovely.
Well, that's it for today.
It
Thank
is.
you very much to our guests, to Ken Bruce, to Noel and to Lindsay. The Level, there you are, on ITV Friday night, 9 o'clock.
Now, on tomorrow's show, brace yourselves, because we are heading back to the boardroom. Lord Alan Sugar will be right here.
He's a softie, really. But now to play us out, one of Sir Terry Wogan's favourites. This is Ward Thomas with Cartwheels. Thanks, girls.
I'm beside you at the mirror. Hi, do I look familiar? Would you believe that we were happy once? True, like an answered prayer. You were mine and we were in. Now I fight to find what's left of us. I give, I give, I give, you never take. I bend, I bend, I bend, so we won't break. I've been doing cartwheels, anything to save us, anything to make you notice me. I've been running circles, always getting nowhere, putting on a show, but you won't see. I've been doing cartwheels. I've been doing cartwheels. Oh, after everything I've done, you still run and disappear. Maybe all I got is hoping I can show you how it feels. I've been doing cartwheels, anything to save us, anything to make you notice me. I've been running circles, always getting nowhere, putting on a show, but you won't see. I've been doing cartwheels. I've been doing cartwheels.